Oh, there's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. Coming up next year on Ghana Tonight, pressures mounting on the government to resume work on the Stodla General Hospital project. But a leader of government business is saying until the International Monetary Fund gives Ghana a clean bill of health, it's going to be really difficult to execute the project in its current form. What you're seeing on the screen there, it's actually the land, the bare land where the La General Hospital was situated. Now, after the demolitions, the place is cleared. This is the state of the La General Hospital project. Bare land, no activity going on there. The last time we were there, the contractors were packing up to leave the place. Now, that's what's happening there right now. That's how the state of affairs is. And the people who are living in this area have one thing on their minds. This is a place that they were going for health care. So when is it going to come up again, this reconstruction of the La General Hospital? We went there to the area earlier today, and the residents in this community, they are not happy that the hospital is still not completed. They've been expressing their frustration to my colleague, Evelyn Tengma. Take a look.
Facility was serving the whole community, Labadi, and the suburb areas like Osuta, Shinungwa, and even some part of Laboni. And if something like this is being demolished without any alternative, then we are all in for the doom.
We're badly hurt. Talking about the pregnant women, there's that, the children and all that. You have to travel long distances, either to a place hospital, Snake Hospital, or Lakeman, which is very far away here.
Well, so those are the residents. A number of them spoke, but there's another group who are also saying that, you know what, if government cannot fulfill this promise of rebuilding the La General Hospital, then they, the residents, want their land back because there's nothing happening there. It's bare land, no activity. Take a look.
Just lay its hands off the land and leave the land to the La people. We are going to engage in a self-help project to construct the hospital for ourselves. And we have a well laid down plan. I'm talking about the coalition, which we have discussed with our town folks. They are ready and willing to support.
The representatives of the people, that's Parliament, also had to answer some questions on this. So the Member of Parliament for the Dadekotopon constituency sought to ask the Majority Leader Oseche Mensah Bonsu whether or not there's going to be any activity anytime soon for this La General Hospital construction to begin. And this is what Oseche Mensah Bonsu, Majority Leader, said.
The funding has been withheld by the sponsors. The Speaker, until the nation is giving a clean bill of health by the IMF, it's going to be difficult for the funding to be released, which is why government now wants to resort to some other means. The Speaker, I know on authority that government now wanted to situate it within the context of Agenda 111. However, if you should resort to that, it will mean that the facility will have to be scaled down a bit, which is not what was originally contained in the agreement that came to this House.
Well, so that's Oseche Mensah Bonsu indicating that because of the IMF program, the sponsors had to hold back with their funding, or it affected the funding for this project. We'll establish whether or not this position espoused by the Majority Leader can, or as compared to what the facts are per the documents about this La General Hospital project, will really fly. So stay with me and follow me closely. Let's hear from the Member of Parliament for the Dafiama Bosie Issa constituency, the Honorable Sebastian Asandare, who is a member of the Health Committee of Parliament. He questioned the Majority Leader's position on this matter. Take a look.
We have about 2 or 3 government officials giving contradictory statements on that. The Minister of Health, who says that it's because contractors were demanding extra funding and therefore they had to mobilize. But he assured that they were ready to begin the construction of the hospital. Then the presidential advisor on health also stated that they had finished all necessary negotiations and the funding was ready to start the project. Then yesterday, the majority leader also stated that it's due to IMF conditionality. So the question to ask, who is telling us the truth? Government has not placed priority on the LA General Hospital project, which is unfortunate. The people are suffering. They have the right to access quality health care. And we think that if we have to achieve universal health coverage, then they have every right to have a hospital. And the question to ask is, why did they demolish the existing facility when they didn't have funding?
So that's a fundamental question. Why was this hospital demolished when the funding was not guaranteed or assured? That's very basic in project management, you know. And so on the back of this question by the Member of Parliament, we have the interests and concerns of these people living in that area at heart. So question is, what exactly was the framework? What was considered even before the La General Hospital was demolished? Take a look at this. This is the document that the Ghana Health Service, in fact, the Ministry of Health, beg your pardon, put out earlier, even before this back and forth. They say update on the redevelopment of the La General Hospital. They give a background. It was built in the 1960s, second largest facility after the Greater Accra Regional Hospital. That's a Ridge Hospital in its catchment area and serves as a population of more than 150,000 people depend on the La General Hospital. This is the Health Ministry's own document. Now, the hospital, which was initially built as a polyclinic, has undergone several renovations, goes on, and they say at a point that the structure had developed serious structural cracks, which necessitated the reason for the demolition. Now, the current situation said the La General Hospital occupies a total land area of 5 acres. It goes on and operates from 5 different structures which are not linked directly by any covered walkways as a result of the piecemeal development. So they gave reasons why and established why they were going to do this because of the structural issues. And the intervention to have this, the assessment was led by the Shen Consult, a reputable civil and structural engineering firm in Accra. They did the assessment. And you recall that afterwards, this was the recommendation that evacuate the entire hospital and distribute patients amongst the adjoining hospitals at Teshi, Adabraka, and the Greater Accra Regional Hospital. 2, demolish the unsafe 5-story structure and all other structures not fit for purpose. 3, redevelop the site into an ultra-modern facility commensurate to the land value and fit for purpose. So they've done the 2. They've evacuated the entire hospital and distributed the patients among the adjoining hospitals. They've demolished the 5-story La General Hospital and all other structures, including a mortuary, which we understand was also fairly new at the time. The 3rd recommendation, which is the redevelopment of the site into an ultra-modern facility commensurate to the land value and fit for purpose, is what has taken forever. It's almost 3 years now. And questions are being asked as to exactly what is going on. Now, let's take a look at this. In terms of the timelines as well, that has a message in there. This is the ministry's own published documents, which we are making reference to. These are the timelines. So if you hear the majority leader say that the IMF program stalled the sponsorship of the project, take a look at this. The receipt of the proposal by the Ministry of Health and signing of the draft agreement was done 18th March 2019. That was it. Then the Ministry of Health reviewed all the documentation, including performing due diligence and so on. And then Cabinet approval, 19th March, Parliamentary approval, 31st of March 2020, submission for the value for money audit 8th May 2020, public procurement approval June 3rd, 2020, the demolition of the building 15th July, all of this has been done. Sword cutting has been done by the president. Project commencement was supposed to have started on the 11th of March 2022. And you saw that there was some work. I mean, some contractors were on the site. And that's why question is, if the health minister indicated at a point that the contractors needed extra funding, and then the presidential advisor talked about the necessary negotiation being done, then what next? Edwin Nilanti van der Poel is Member of Parliament for the Ododo constituency. He's the leader of the Greater Accra Regional Caucus. That's the MPs in the Greater Accra region on the minority side. He's joining us. I thank you so much for your time here on Ghana Tonight. First of all, we ran through all of this to set the issues in context. The Osechi Mensah Bonsu is saying the IMF program is what has stalled this project, and that it appears until Ghana is given a clean bill of health, this project cannot be executed in its current form. That's what he's saying.
Thank you very much, and good evening to your viewers. Let me say it was one disappointment that I've had in the House that I will always live with. I expected a majority leader and the leader of parliamentary business to be able to side with members of parliament on issues that relate to their constituencies. So, because speakers of all the parliaments I've sat in, the 6th, the 7th, the 8th parliament, always give credence to constituency-specific issues. This is your colleague member of parliament who has stood up in parliament to lament about the failure of your government to construct a hospital that they have demolished with the promise that they are just about to rebuild. In fact, let's go back into history. The La General Hospital has served almost all the communities in the Eastern Corridor, apart from Tema, before the advent of Lekma Hospital. So it's a very important hospital. In fact, most of deliveries, maternity issues between Osu up to Teshin to Nungwa were handled by La General Hospital. It was not a whole hospital that we could say were facing integrity problems. Certain parts of the hospital. So a lot of us advise that instead of demolishing the whole facility, like John Dramani Mahama did with the Rich Hospital, now Greater Accra Regional Hospital, you could handle those parts that had suffered cracks and those things first, whilst you maintain the other structures, which were okay, so that partial services could be offered at the hospital. But the government, as usual, didn't listen to anybody and went ahead and brought it to ground zero with the promise that they were just going to do it. That was a year before the elections in 2019. Their whole pretext was to con the La Dadekotopon constituency people to vote for them because they're coming to give them a hospital. Because the La people did not vote for them, that's the reason why they have refused and they have failed and they have intentionally reneged on their promise to rebuild the hospital. It's not because any funding had been withheld. Because under normal circumstance, when there's a funding for a project, that money is fenced for that project. Unless they didn't see it as a priority, so they took that money and invested it in another project. But the question I've been asking is that if La General Hospital was the Achima Buakwa Hospital and the president took the decision to rebuild it and demolish everything, would the president sit down up to today and tell the people of Achima Buakwa that the money meant for your hospital was used for something else and that's why your hospital has not been built? It tells you how the people in government regard constituencies and regions that do not favor them.
Right. Well, the Honorable Wantabo, if you could reposition yourself so we got a better connection to your Zoom, that'll be good. You say that if funding was available, then why is this thing not completed? Well, same question is that if the majority leader is saying the sponsors of this project, because of the IMF program, that's also been affected. So the fundamental question that your colleague was asking was that, was there no surety or assurance of the funding for this project even before government went ahead to demolish the project? So for you, as a leader of the Greater Accra Regional MPs, the Minority Caucus, what are you going to do about this?
The Minister of Finance, I didn't say it outside, I said it on the floor of Parliament. So if we go to the answer, the records are there. And I've told the Speaker, I've sent a warning to the Speaker, to the Minister of Finance, that on the day that he will come to Parliament to read the budget, God should save him if he has the large general hospital captured under the projects. Other than that, he will not have the opportunity to present his budget, because I want to prove to them that they can't sit on the land of the people of Gadangwe and treat us with this contempt. We will make sure, the members of Parliament from Greater Accra will make sure that the budget will not be read if the large general hospital is not captured in the budget. After that, we're going to pick it at the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Health until they start the work at the large general hospital. We're not joking with this. And so if he had not already captured the large general hospital in his budget, he better do a review before he comes to Parliament next week.
Honorable Nila Ntevanapo, from what we gather from what the majority leader is saying is that this project is situated now because of this challenge with getting the funding from the original source as a result of the IMF program. This large general hospital project is going to be situated within Agenda 111. And so there's going to be a possible review of the current project in its form as you have it. So if the finance minister shows up on November 15 with this same narrative, will that answer your questions and your concerns about this particular project?
They had money to pay delegates. Do you know how much they spend on these elections? So I will not take that excuse for anything. They are doing other projects in other constituencies. What is wrong with committing money to the large general hospital? We didn't ask them to break it down. They broke it down. Look, yesterday I said in Parliament, our old people, old folks have a wise saying that a bed in hand is worth more than 1,000 in the bush. You don't have the bed. You have only one bed. You decide to let that bed fly away when you are not sure of the next bed. That cannot be explained under any circumstance. What they did was irrational, was reckless, and was irresponsible. And they must be ready to answer for it. If they have any money, if they earmark any money for any other project somewhere, we don't care. They should bring that money to do large general hospital. That's the only thing that will relieve them on next week when they come to the house.
Lynn of Devanapoy, appreciate your time. Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. And we understand tomorrow the health minister, all things being, of course, expected to appear before Parliament with the Kolebu Teaching Hospital CEO as well on the renal issues and matters arising. But I appreciate your time. It's a member of Parliament for the Ododo constituency, also the leader of the Minority Caucus, that's the Greater Accra MPs in Parliament. Thank you. And it's something we'll keep an eye on as well and see how things play out. But this is Ghana Tonight. Coming up next, let's stay on issues of health, because a moment of relief for the kidney disease patients on dialysis as the Kolebu Teaching Hospital renal dialysis unit opens for outpatient services. But there are concerns about sustainability if the debts of this facility are not cleared. We understand they owe some 4 million cedis. We have a conversation on this particular one here on Ghana Tonight. Now, if you recall, even before the decision to open this renal unit, the Kolebu Teaching Hospital issued a statement detailing a number of things. That's what you see on the screen there. And they say that paragraph 3, that the Ministry of Health is working closely with the management of Kolebu Teaching Hospital to offset the 4 million debt occasioned by the cost under recoveries. That's the debt that this renal unit is having to deal with now, 4 million cedis. We call on Parliament to expedite action on the proposed new fees and charges to enable us to recover cost and sustain the operations. We commend individuals, corporate bodies, and other philanthropy organizations who have, over the years, helped us provide life-saving treatment to our patients. And they are hoping that other stakeholders and benefactors will also come on board to do so. So there are two fundamental things in there. They are asking Parliament to expedite action on the proposed new fees. Remember the new fees from, 380 cedis that they have taken now to the 750 Ghana cedis, which generated a lot of uproar when that memo was leaked and then printout was put at the entrance of this renal unit. That's what they are asking that Parliament should take expedited action on. That's been now the conversation as to what Parliament will do about this and the request that Kolebu is making of them. Bafwa Hinkra is the spokesperson for the fellows with renal condition who go to the Kolebu Teaching Hospital for treatment. Bafwa, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight, and grateful that you could stay up to join us. But even though this renal unit has been open, I'm sure that your focus now is about the cost. Now, how much did you pay for the dialysis today?
I have not done mine yet. I'll be doing it on Friday. For Friday is my day. But I've been there the whole day. But everybody is paying the full price. That's the 380. That is what everybody is paying.
But as we just read, Kolebu management is requesting of Parliament to expedite action in taking a decision on their proposed fee increase. What you are paying now, the 380 and the proposed 750. You come face to face with the conditions at the renal unit. So what's the fellows who have this renal condition, what's your own position on this demand by Kolebu?
I don't know why would Parliament even think of increasing it, because already even the 380 is a problem for patients to pay. So why would Parliament even think of increasing it? And now, when I talk of this, I also, let me put it this way. I understand Kolebu's situation. The consumables are now very expensive. Apart from that, there are a lot of taxes on the consumables when they get to the port for them to clear. So I understand them. So in a nutshell, the government has to come in. These are some of the things that made Kolebu was owing the company that provided us the consumables. So the government will have to come in and see to this thing. Basically simple. They need to put the dialysis on the National Health Insurance so that it will bring the burden on Kolebu. Because the point is that today, in the morning, they caught 10 people. Out of the 10, it was only 4 who made up. Because they put in the rest would say, you don't have the money for the dialysis. So out of the 10, only 4 came. So even if the 380 we haven't challenged, why would we even take it to the 765.42 that you're talking about? We totally disagree with them. But on the reality, on the ground, what some of us know, what Kolebu wants to do is because they want to break even. And I understand they are applied to, because they have to break it, because if not that, always they'll be owing people. But why would Parliament even look at it and maybe want to take it to 765?
So you're caught up in this situation where, yes, you understand why Kolebu is making this demand because you come face to face with the reality. They are under recovering because the cost of the consumables, the prices have gone high, and they are still charging the old prices. But then again, if they increase it to the 765 cedis, you can't afford it because you have to go 3 times a week, from what I understand. And confirm this for me, that 19 of the persons living with renal conditions have died between May and this year when the renal unit was shut down because they couldn't afford to go to the private facilities to get health care?
Yeah, that's correct. We lost 19 people, and most of them, I might not be a doctor, so, but the point is, we realized that most of them were not able to having money to go to the private dialysis center. So they were getting weaker and weaker and weaker. Today, some of your reporters even came around and they saw the condition at which those 9 people who even reported to the that they saw their condition. And then some of them today, when they finished, they saw the difference. And so yes, yeah, I can say that most of them lost their life because they didn't have money to go for the private dialysis center, and then they were at home. So they died out of the place closer.
I appreciate your time, and thank you so much for joining us on Ghana Tonight. So Ahin Cross is the spokesperson for the fellows with renal condition who attend the Kolebu Teaching Hospital renal unit for medical care. Dr. Thomas Anaba is a public health specialist and a former CEO of the Greater Accra Regional Hospital, that's the Ridge Hospital. Thank you so much for joining us here, Dr. Anaba, on Ghana Tonight. The Kolebu renal unit indeed has been opened, at least with what we have heard from these persons who go there. The problem now is the lack of a sustainable financial plan for them. They're still dealing with 4 million cedis debt. What should be the thinking right now?
Thank you very much for having me. The repercussion is that many people who suffer chronic renal disease at the end stage that requires dialysis would not be able to afford, and that would mean that their life will be cut short. Dialysis services in Ghana is very expensive. Patients have to cough out money. We know the living standards. We know the economic power, the purchasing power Ghanaians have. Out of 30 people, 100 people who develop renal failure in Ghana, only 30% of them are able to do renal dialysis for 3 months, and less than 1% are able to do renal dialysis for 1 year. It means that if you have 100 people who have kidney failure in Ghana today, next year you only have 1% of them leaving. All this is because of lack of funding to pay for the services for the dialysis. So that is the repercussion in the absence of support for those people who develop chronic renal failure, the end stage died.
But taking into consideration the fact that Kolebu is still grappling with this 4 million cedis debt, I mean, what should be the consideration in terms of how to address this issue of the sustainable financial plan for the unit? Because now they're talking about increasing the fee that people pay so they can at least break even because of under-recoveries as well. Is that the most considerate path to take amongst all the other alternatives, if they are?
The immediate consideration is for government to move in to support. But before that, let's ask ourselves, how did Kolebu get to this point to an extent that they owe 4 million Ghana cedis? After all, that service is cash and carry. Is it that they have used the cash and carry money from the dialysis patient to pay for other services that are not meant, were not services that they provided for those clients? Because if I come to do dialysis in Kolebu, I pay for it. And the money you don't pay, they don't give you the dialysis. How come they are owing? And if at all they are owing, but for God's sake, the total number of patients on dialysis as at October 2023 is 1,195 patients. Some need just one dialysis a week, some 2 a week, some 3 a week maximum. Is it not possible for government to intervene while they set up a fund like in other countries to help meet the needs, financial needs of these people? It is a fact that if you are supposed to have dialysis because you unfortunately fall sick of chronic renal failure, your family, your relatives would have to sell virtually all their property to help you live if you want to live for a year. Government knows this. What are we waiting for? Every citizen of Ghana has the right for medical care, any services provided anywhere. To me, I don't see it to be right for Kolebu to choose who to provide dialysis to and who not to provide to. If it's a matter of money, I think the government can find the money. We've seen how monies have been spent in this country in very unproductive ways, and I've always cited it. 70-something million in digging a hole to build a cathedral, and we can't find 4 million to rescue patients who are grappling for their lives. Some of them have even gotten the money, borrowed, begged, looked for people to fund them, to support them. They have the money in their hand, but they can't get the dialysis done because the place was closed. Quite apart from that, it's very interesting. I think that we need, as a country, to sit down and develop a funding source with dedicated income, levy, or whatever it will be, whether from government, whether from donors, whoever, to rescue those who have end-stage renal failures. Because we see very young people who are very smart, who have had renal problems, and their lives may just end abruptly in that manner. It's not good. So, though Kolebu has opened for them to do the dialysis, we'll wait for the minister to appear before Parliament to give us a good blueprint, a plan that would secure good funding enough. At least, if not to take care of the treatment completely, but to make it cheaper, whether it's in the form of buying the equipment, whether it's in the form of just saying that we'll pay this amount for anybody doing dialysis, whether it's in the form of taking all the burden, and where we are going to get the money from, let's cite where we are going to get the money from. Then we are all rest assured. Okay. And also make sure we educate Ghanaians more on what we do that would reduce the burden of renal dialysis in Ghana. Preventive measures.
Right, but Dr. Naba, just to put on record that the reason why they have incurred this 4 million debt, at least per the explanation that they put in the statement, which we put on the screen, is that because of under-recoveries, the cost of consumables have gone up and they are not able to even break even. They are making losses. That's what has led to the 4 million cedis debt per Kolebu's explanation. That's the situation they are dealing with right now.
I agree with them. If they think that is the problem, they can increase. But the rate at which they are increasing it is mind-boggling. We have the same government hospital in Tamale that is taking less than what they want. What at all is their input? What at all is their input that they want to charge that amount? Even the private who do it cash and carry, like in Nyaho, are not charging that amount. After all the staff, the building belongs to the government. The only thing they need in Kolebu to keep running are the consumables and the machine. The water, the electricity are provided by government and the rest. It is just recently that they asked that they should pay electricity and water. But before they were not. But the other hospitals who are private were already paying for them, but their cost is less than that of Kolebu. I want them to explain to us why DS is so expensive that people would have to lose their lives because they don't have money to afford. The little they have cannot reach what Kolebu is demanding for.
Well, this is the demand that the Kolebu Teaching Hospital management is making of Parliament, that they should expedite action on the proposed new fees and charges to enable them to recover cost and sustain the renal unit services, and that the Ministry of Health is working closely with the management of Kolebu to offset the 4 million cedis debt occasioned by the cost under recoveries. We've just spoken to the persons living with these kidney diseases. They make the point that, yes, they understand what the renal unit is faced with, but any increase in what they are paying, the 380 they are paying now, is going to be a serious problem for them, because some of them are not even able to come up with the 380 cedis per session to pay for it. So as this matter is going to Parliament, from your health aspect perspective, what should Parliament be taking into consideration?
Right, definitely. If they take it to Parliament, we have accountants, we have economists, they'll all look at it and then ask them why that increment. They have to justify it. And I think that parliamentarians should also really look at whether it is realistic. How come that Kolebu is going to be the highest paid dialysis service center in Ghana, and that hospital belongs to government? I think that they have to scrutinize it well before approval. Definitely, they can't charge any fee without government approval. It's also up to government to see how he can support it to make the cost less. So Parliament can also make recommendations for government to take up some of the cost, the build-up cost. Maybe government can say that, okay, taxes at the port should be taken off to reduce the cost. The government will say that for the electricity for the dialysis center, we'll pay for it or whatever to reduce the cost. So I think Parliament should do a very good job to make sure the cost for dialysis comes down. Look, it's not easy. And one should not pray to fall into this soup, to have a kidney failure. Or else, if these things are not well done and the prices are not well fixed, it means we are just sentencing people to death prematurely when there's a solution to improve it. Other countries have done same things, have improved the revenue mobilization for renal dialysis patients. And we have patients living 15, 20 years with chronic renal failures with support from the government. Like in the US, they have what we call the National Kidney Foundation that provides funding for some of these things. We can set up this and put up very credible people who are very transparent to manage some of these things to reduce the cost. But I've urged Parliament to scrutinize the demand Kolebu is making, the proposal they are bringing for renal dialysis very well before they approve it, and make sure what is not necessary should not be charged.
Right. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Dr. Thomas Anaba is a public health specialist, former CEO of the Greater Accra Regional Hospital, that's the Rich Hospital, joining us with his thoughts on this matter. Thank you so much here on Ghana Tonight. Coming up next, right after this quick break, there's calls intensifying for the government to roll out a resettlement plan for the people who have been displaced by the Akonsombo and Kpone Dam spillage. Many are still stranded as we speak. We're going to go live to the communities affected. And even though the water is receding in most areas, there are other places that have been left with a lot of damage. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly.